Ride along each week as we share proven strategies to strengthen your business, energize your team, and create the business success you've been dreaming about. And now, here's your host, Rich Allen.
How often do you over-deliver on the promise to your customers? Welcome to the Ultimate Business Tune-Up Podcast, where our one and only goal is to help you tune up your business so you can have a long-lasting success and fulfillment that comes from owning a solid, profitable, and sustainable business. Each week we dive deep into a single topic related to improving your business, improving your team engagement, or improving your relationship with your customers. This week I want to ask a question that I like to ask team members of any new business I begin to work with, to get a sense of how the individual team members view their roles in the business. And to gauge how focused they are on the customer, I often ask this question: how often do you over-deliver on the promise you make to your customers? It's an interesting question that often leads to some interesting discussions about their job responsibilities and the authority they have been given, but mostly the response tells me a lot about the mindset of the business owner. How would you and your team members respond to this question? Would your team members look at me with a puzzled look on their face? Or would they enthusiastically respond with, absolutely, all the time, it's what's expected of us? It's worth thinking about this for a minute, and if you're not 100% certain that the response would be the latter, then we've got some work to do. In fact, I recall having a lengthy discussion with a team of leaders at one business recently when this topic came up. As I asked the question, how often do you over-deliver on the promises to your customers, they answered consistently and almost in unison, why would we do that? We're paid for every service we provide our customers, and we know that if we want to make our bonus incentives, we've got to be sure that every transaction is properly billed. I was a bit surprised by the answer, but the more we talked about it, I could see where their perspective was formed. As it turns out, a couple of years ago, the business was struggling, and when they did some analysis of their financials, it became clear that they weren't invoicing all of their transactions, meaning they were doing the work but not charging the customer. When I heard that, it made perfect sense. And just to be clear, I'm a big fan of business owners knowing their costs and charging their customers a fair market rate for their products and services. I believe every business should set their pricing so they can make a reasonable profit margin, and I'm not in favor of doing work for free unless there's a specific intentional reason behind it. But what I didn't think about was that this mindset clearly had impacted this team of leaders to be super focused on making sure that every single service item, every small service detail, and every minute focused on the customer was translated into a price, and that price was invoiced to the customer. Which meant, by design, they never over-delivered to their customers. Their customers paid for each and every service or support item they received, without exception. So what do you think of that? Is that a good way to run your business? It certainly is a good way to make sure you maximize your revenues, and as a result, you'll probably maximize your profits. But in the long run, will you maximize the satisfaction of your customer? Even more importantly, will that approach turn your customers into raving fans who will tell everyone how awesome you and your team are? Probably not. So how should you, as a business owner, balance the tension between properly charging for all the work you do for a customer and the concept of over-delivering on your promise to your customers? Both are important, but what gets people talking about your business as something exceptional or extraordinary is not that you charge them a fair price for your products or services, but that what comes with that fair price is the personal care, attention, and support that they would not get anywhere else. Given that, here are a few ideas that you may want to consider when it comes to over-delivering on your promise to your customers. Make time your priority. Nothing says you care about the needs of your customers more than you being hyper-focused on time. Speed of response, speed of decisions, and speed of action can have a profound impact on how someone views your commitment and efforts on their behalf. How many times have you requested a response or needed something and had to wait hours or days for a response? It's totally frustrating to be waiting, not knowing whether your message was received or if your request has been put into the queue. I often tell my clients that if Amazon, one of the world's largest companies, can respond instantly when you place an order, tell you when that order was sent to the warehouse, text you when the order was pulled and packed, notify you when the order is out for delivery, and instantly show that your package has been delivered by sending you a picture of your package on your front porch, then surely any smaller business with far fewer customers can communicate that you received their inquiry or order and keep the customer informed of the progress on completing their order. How well do you do that in your business? How quickly does your team respond to inquiries, needs, or orders from your customers? What if you made this a place where you over-delivered on your promise to your customers? There's one idea for you. Here's another one to consider. Answer your customers' biggest concerns before they ask. In most cases, as a customer or prospective customer, we have some preconceived ideas about what typically goes wrong or what may not work when it comes to any specific industry or area of business. I recently pulled my back and I was in pretty severe pain for several days. I was reluctant to go to the doctor because I'm not excited about taking pain medication. When I mentioned it to a friend, they asked me if I'd ever tried acupuncture. I quickly told them that I had not, and that I honestly didn't even know that that kind of thing really worked. They assured me that it did, and they gave me the name of a local doctor, if that title fits, that they had used with great success. So given that my back was really hurting, I made the decision to give it a try. I went to their website and scheduled a visit. When the time for my appointment arrived, I showed up and cautiously walked into the waiting room. It was quiet and empty, and for a moment, I thought about leaving. Then the doctor came out of his office, greeted me, and took me into his consultation room. After several questions, he did his thing and placed pins in the parts of my body that were supposedly related to the points of my pain. I'll cut to the chase and tell you that the treatment did help, and I ended up going back for a second treatment. I found some relief from doing the acupuncture, but I still had many questions. I found myself wondering, why did the doctor not share some information or details that would answer the many questions that I had about acupuncture? Was he thinking that the treatment itself was sufficient? Was he banking on his ability to stop my pain to be what would make me a customer for life? The truth was, it wasn't enough. Even though the treatments did some good, I still had many questions that weren't answered, and because of that, I've not returned. I have no doubt that had he given some thought to answering my unspoken questions before I had to bring them up to him directly, I would probably be a very good advocate for his services. But because he left me with questions, I decided to look for the cure elsewhere. I wonder how often that happens in business today. I believe it happens very often. How about you? Do you answer your customers' questions before they ask them? Should you? Maybe something to consider. Here's one last idea for you to consider. Go the extra mile without expecting to be paid for it. Making the sale with a new customer is a good thing, but nothing compares with having a customer come back time and time again. Turning a one-time customer into a forever customer is far better and far cheaper than having to market to and convince someone new to become a customer. So rather than focus on getting paid for every last service or communication that you have with a customer, what if you considered your last mile engagement with your customer as marketing costs to keep that customer coming back time and time again? I had an experience recently that brought this to life for me. I was helping a client solve a difficult legal matter, and I reached out to an attorney who I knew who I thought could help them with their issue. I had a couple of conversations with the attorney to confirm that he could in fact help them. Then I introduced them to my clients. They talked, reviewed the situation, and after some time and effort to gather the facts and make the case, he helped them fix the problem. My client was thrilled, and I was pleased, and the attorney had themselves a new customer. All was good. And then I got an invoice in the mail. It wasn't a big invoice. Actually, it was very small. But I was puzzled by it. Turns out that the attorney had billed me for the conversations that led to the introduction of my clients to him. I asked my clients if they had been invoiced, and sure enough, they had. The amount was not unreasonable, and the problem was solved, so they were fine with things. But I was left thinking, why should I be charged a fee when I was making an introduction to a prospective new customer? The need to capture each and every moment and turn it into a billable event had turned a positive experience into a frustrating and negative one. But it didn't need to be that way. In fact, that attorney should have sent me a thank you card rather than an invoice. By doing that, he would have been the first one I would call anytime anyone needed legal help. But rather than go the extra mile without expecting to be paid for it, they were more concerned with billable hours. Is this something you've experienced? Is this something that you do in your business? Perhaps you should be sending more thank you cards than invoices. It's certainly worth some consideration. I hope you get the idea that sometimes it's far better to over-deliver to your customers than it is to deliver only what the customer has paid for. My experience is that when you go beyond the billable and focus on doing more than what's expected, customers will remember your gifts and will share their experiences with others without hesitation. We can all do better at over-delivering on our promises, and there's no better time to start than right now. As always, if you have specific questions or would like to bounce around some thoughts on this topic, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. I'd enjoy helping you find the right balance between getting paid for the good work you do and making your customers feel that you've gone well above and beyond the norm for them. Thanks for sharing this podcast episode with your fellow business owners. I'm sure they'd appreciate the value in gaining more lifetime customers, and this may be one sure way that could make it happen more regularly. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to discuss taking pride in our work. You won't want to miss it. Meanwhile, if you have a question, suggestion, or would simply like to connect, shoot me an email at rich@tourtoprofit.com. Now go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Business Tune-Up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, find more resources at tourtoprofit.com and connect with Rich by sending a message to rich@tourtoprofit.com. Until next time, ride hard.